If you love boxing, you're gonna love this.
Well, hello and welcome to episode 9 of the BoxNation Podcast. I'm your host, Dev Sani, and with me today is a man who is the Batman to my Robin. It is, of course, Mr. Steve Lillis.
Thanks, Dev. And after last week's great podcast, we're going to have to go some this week. I'm sure we will, though.
We are. One thing I've been thinking, Steve. So your name is Steve Lillis, right? Are you aware of Steve Willis, the American referee?
Yeah, I am.
What do you make of him? Because he's like my favourite referee ever. He makes all the faces and that.
He's great. As I say, he's such a colourful referee. Yeah. We see him a lot of those New York fights. I think he's licensed in New York.
Yeah.
We see him a lot of those fights, and his eyes are just so focused on the action. I like him a lot, and I think he's a colourful character. I really do. You know what? He's one of those we should try and get on the podcast.
Yes, definitely.
When Lillis met Willis.
You've taken the words right out of my mouth. I need to see that. I need to see that on BoxNation, not only on this podcast. I need to see a full-on documentary full of expressive facial, expressions, all the colourful stuff that he does. And you do as well. You're quite expressive too, Steve.
I don't know about that.
Now, after last week's roaring success of an episode where we had a Tyson Fury exclusive interview, fans across the globe have been wondering how we can follow that. Well, here's how we can follow that, and here's a little clue for you. Yes, that's right. This week we have WBC World Heavyweight Champion Deontay Wilder on the show, who talks about his upcoming fight with Luis Ortiz and also how he feels about Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. It's not one to miss. We hear from WBO World Middleweight Champion Billy Joe Saunders after his fight with Martin Murray was confirmed. Frank Warren gives us an update and also discusses his feelings on TV date clashes. We also hear from Jamie Moore, who talks about training Carl Frampton. They're heading into their second camp together, of course. And we look back at the best of last weekend's action, and we look forward to the best of this weekend's action. Stick with us. Now, last week we brought you the lineal heavyweight champion of the world, Tyson Fury. He was brash, he was bold, he was braggadocious, and those three words can certainly be used to describe the WBC World Heavyweight Champion Deontay Wilder. He is arguably the hardest one-punch KO athlete in the world, 39-0 with 38 knockouts, and he fights controversial Cuban heavyweight Luis Ortiz next, in what's supposed to be his toughest fight of his career. Steve Lillis asked if he was looking forward to it.
I'm so excited about this fight. This is my opportunity to show the world what I'm about. A lot of people respect Ortiz and rate him, and I'm finally getting the opportunity to prove to the world what we've been saying all along. Finally, so many guys have dodged me. So many guys have gotten on drugs, and to where I couldn't prove myself. And now I have the opportunity. This fight failed through the first time, but I stayed on it. I let my team know that this is who I want, and I want him immediately once the WBC brought him back in, and here it is. We got what we want, and I can't wait.
Ortiz has had a controversial checkered past with, he's had drug suspensions. You've been quite vocal against that. Does it make you feel you really, you want to inflict more punishment on him?
Oh, man, you took the words right out of my mouth. I want to inflict as much punishment as possible to him. These guys need to be punished. I don't think he's been punished. But he definitely hasn't been punished enough. So although he's older than me, I'm going to play a role in this. We're going to act it out. I'm going to play a role. I'm going to be the daddy. He's going to be my son. I'm going to let him on my knee. I'm going to spank the hell out of him.
And your last fight against Bermain Stavern, I know it was very quick, but it was a knockout everyone loves. But people were picking up on things like your jab was suddenly coming into play in your artillery. Is a lot of that down to having someone like Mark Breland in your camp training you?
Oh yeah, not only just Mark Breland, but we got Jake Deeds. We got cuz all these guys are some great trainers. My trainers, they don't speak out, like all these other trainers. They're not vocal to speak out. We don't they don't really believe in it. Actually, they just, they say, our work is gonna show for itself. I got a very smart team. I'm very smart in the ring as well too. I adapt to any opponent that steps in the ring to me, and every fighter brings something different out of me that I show, I display. I don't display everything that I have in the fight. I only display what the fighter allows me to display with their style. I don't like to waste energy, and I don't like to show too much. I like to give people just enough so they can take home something to talk about and wait for the next fight, just like this. So I'm looking forward to it.
I get the impression you're a very close-knit team and very few people can get inside that team.
Oh, well, definitely. We train very hard. I train very hard to do what I do. And I enjoy it as well, too. It's a part of a relaxation. And that I enjoy. I'm in love with boxing. And I definitely listen to my people, but my people also know that I have an IQ in the ring that goes unnoticed. And that people don't really notice until guys come in camp with me and trainers see what I really am. A lot of people think I'm just wild. But the truth remains to be told. We like to keep people thinking that I'm just this wild guy in the ring. They can't figure me out until you come to my camps, until you come to the gym and really see what type of person Deontay Wilder is. Then we're gonna let people keep on guessing. But we've made a lot of believers out of guys that came to my camp, coaches, trainers, anybody that have viewed and seen me do what I do in sparring in the camp. I'll blow your mind. The things that I'm able to do and the things that people haven't even seen yet, it'll blow your mind. You'll think I'm a freak of nature, But we enjoy doing what we do, And like I said, once the third, I cannot wait. This is my big opportunity to show the world who is Deontay Wilder.
Yeah, so, and you're a regular in Britain. I know you got a lot of friends in Sheffield. You visit there often. When are we going to see you over here and taking on the likes of Fury and Joshua? What's your opinion of Tyson Fury, first of all?
First, I like Tyson, man. I like Tyson Fury. I think he's a colorful character in the heavyweight division. And, he's my type of guy. He expresses himself very vocally. And that's what we do here in America, man. We like to express ourselves. I call it speaking your piece. I tell all my children, even my children, I tell them, speak your piece. Speak what's on your mind. Tell me how you feel. Because I'm the same way. I'm going to speak my piece. I'm going to tell you how I feel. That's me being a man. And, for whatever reason, I like him. He's a cool guy. It's just boxing that we have to do what we do. We do what we do because we enjoy it. We talk because we enjoy it. It causes controversy. It causes people to talk about boxing. It causes people to talk about us. How we act in the boxing world. It's not necessarily how we are just in our regular everyday life. I'm on a reality show now, Wags. And if people really want to see how Deontay Wilder is outside of boxing, tune into the show. You'll see my colorful side of me and my lovable side of me and how I interact with my fiance and everyday life. It's just, boxing is a game that either you have it or you don't. You have personality or you don't. I'm not in this business to make it seem like I'm this humble guy and I'm very polite. No, this is a gladiator sport. No gladiator in time ever just had that, I'm so humble. They had a king's mentality. They had a warrior's mentality. They had a gladiator's mentality. They spoke how they felt. And then on that night of that fight, they proved to the world what they claimed. And that's what I do. I speak it, I believe it, and I receive it.
You said about Tyson, he's your kind of guy. What about him as a boxer, though?
As a boxer, I'm not too fond of his boxing style. He has an awkward style, which when you're an awkward fighter, it's going to be hard for anybody to really just try to beat you because you're awkward. Awkward is a style, I think that's more confusing than being a southpaw. When you have a right hand and a left hand together, it's very awkward. But when you have a guy that's awkward, whether he's southpaw or orthodox, and he's awkward, then you got trouble on your hands because you don't know what this guy's going to do at what given time he's going to do it in. And, that's why I like my awkward style. And Tyson has a very awkward style that works for him. He's not the fastest. He's not the strongest. But, he's undefeated. He was a champion at one point in time. And he brings excitement to the heavyweight division.
And you haven't been slow either in calling out Anthony Joshua. Do you think he's trying to avoid you by taking on Parker and that?
I think, to be honest, not only just my opinion, but over especially last year and over the months, people have seen Joshua. I think Joshua is scared to fight me. I think that you guys have boosted him up so much and praised him so much that when you do that, when you have a country on your side, I've never felt that before, and probably would never ever feel a country inside being that my country is so huge and it is what it is, and people have their opinions. But it could boost your head up a little bit. It could make you be like, I don't want this to stop. I don't want this dream to end. And when you have a guy like me that knocks guys out, that can do it, at any given time, or any given round of a fight, one punch knockout. When you have a guy that you facing with one punch knockout, you're gonna be terrified. I don't care who you are. I mean, I'll be nervous and scared to fight me myself. If you're looking as a fighter on the outside looking in, I am not a type of guy that you would want to fight. Especially when you got everything in your hands, because you always gonna think about, and I know Joshua thinks about it all the time, probably even when he sleeps. He think about one day this is gonna end, and it can end with Deontay Wilder. It can end with me, and this is just facts. This is not just rubbish that I'm talking. This is basic facts. We think about these things, about different fights. Oh, he hit hard. Oh, he doing this, he doing that. Even the outside people, the fans that are outside looking in, everybody everybody has their own opinion, and they have the right to express it. But as fighter, we know, we understand, and I am the biggest threat in Joshua's career. I know it, he knows it, and everybody else does as well too. I just want to make the biggest fight happen. I want to give the fans what they want to see. We have an opportunity to make the biggest, most amazing heavyweight fight in years, in history, and in our era. And I want to give it to. I don't want to wait till we get old. I don't want to wait till we out of our primes or somebody end up getting the injury and never the same when they come back in. I don't want that. This is the time now. The world is waiting. The world is watching, and the world wants this fight to happen ASAP. And look at the stage that it's been set up on. I fight Ortiz, one of the most feared, the boogeyman that has been given his title of the division. Joshua's fighting Parker, which is another champion. I'm going to win for sure. If Joshua wins, then they line up for a mega fight. It's huge. It's perfect for how it's going. It's almost like a tournament. Hopefully, hopefully everything works out as planned it, and we can finally once and for all give the fans what they want to see.
And then if you beat Anthony Joshua, you can come back to England, Wembley Stadium again, and fight Tyson Fury and make more money.
Hey, whatever works, man. I would love to. I enjoy coming to England. I enjoy it each and every time. Like I said, as people know, I definitely have a family there. I have a lot of friends there. I know a lot of people there. Actually. And, every time I come, people always welcome me with open arms. When I walk the streets, I have many people behind me, kids, and, it's always exciting because I'm a people's person. I love talking to people. I love interacting with people, although I have a natural intimidating face, but some people, get hesitant, but I'm a great guy. I'm a lovable guy. I love people, and when I come over there, I feel like I'm at home. I never feel like I'm out of place when I come there. And for that reason, I would love I'll fight there any given time or any given day of the week. I'm comfortable there. And that's the thing about me. I don't care where we fight because I'm very experienced of going to somebody else's country. I'm very experienced fighting in somebody else's territory. That don't bother me at all. The crowd doesn't bother me at all. I don't even hear them when I'm in the ring, period. Until I knock my guy down, and then everything come back to life. Sound, faces, everything just come back to life. So that don't bother me. I'm excited. Wherever I go, I make it my own home, and I adapt to the environment and the situation. And just excited about that vision. I'm just looking forward to putting on the best shows as possible.
Well, before we let you go, Deontay, for all your fans in England, could you give them a big bomb squad?
Well, first off, man, to all my lovable fans that's up in England, man, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, like always, I really appreciate you guys so much, especially the ones that been with me from day one. I want to let you know that I love you so much, and I appreciate you so much. It's been a long journey for me. I've always we've always pulled the short end of the stick, but now there are brighter days, there are bigger fights in the future that wait Deontay Wilder to prove that I am the best king of the heavyweight division, the baddest man on the planet. And soon we will get our victory, and we will have our bragging rights, and we will say that there is one champion, one face, one name, and his name is Deontay Wilder. Thank you guys so much. I'm looking forward to performing for you guys on March the 3rd, and after that, looking for the biggest title fight in world history to claim victory and be the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, baby. Till then, I'll see you guys soon. Love you guys, and Squad!
Steve, well, tremendous interview, great work from yourself, and Wilder on great form. Let's pick the bones of some of that. He said that he's gonna play the role of Luis Ortiz's daddy and spank the hell out of him. What do you reckon?
Yeah, look, he hasn't been shy. Well, he's not shy anyway, is he? Let's put it that way. Deontay Wilder, he brings a whole new meaning to the word brash and extrovert words, should I say. He's not slow in coming forward. He's panned Ortiz constantly with the verbals over his, shall we say, he's a suspicious drug bust past.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons he's vowing to take it out on him when they meet. Fascinating fight, just as you said in your intro there. Wilder's 39-0, is it 37 by KO?
It's 38. It's only Stavern, yeah.
Ortiz is 28-0. He's banged out more. The only thing I might debate is whether Ortiz is still 38.
Yes.
He I wouldn't be surprised if he's a little bit north of 40 years of age. But look, it is Wilder's toughest fight, and after his win against Stavern, everyone loves one-punch knockouts,
sure.
And that's what he did to Stavern. People are looking for Wilder to do this so he can stake his claim as the man who might beat Joshua, as the man who might beat Tyson Fury. I know he's planning to. He's got a lot of friends in Sheffield, and he's planning to come over the end of March and see them. And he will be ringside when was it March 31st when Joshua fights Parker. But of course, there's Tyson Fury coming back.
Yeah,
and,
of course.
Fury and Wilder, that would be a fantastic build-up, wouldn't it?
Well, they had the face-off. Remember, I can't remember who Deontay Wilder beat, but Tyson Fury got in the ring afterwards. Soon after he became the heavyweight champ, there were verbals. They mouthed off, mouth-watering at the time, and we need to see that.
Yeah, it's a fight I'd love to see. I mean, but let's have Tyson back with a few wins first. And if you listen to the interview, I think Deontay is sensible in thinking there's more chance of him fighting Joshua this year than there is Fury. I wouldn't be surprised if none of them fought each other this year. That's the honest truth, because Parker's could fight Povetkin's next, and then it could be a mandatory. Fury's making his way back in, and it could be 2019 before we see the real clash of the giants between all three of them, when they could have a little series. I think that's more realistic than this year, purely because of what's planned already in advance from this year. Well, and of course, Wilder can just fight in America and fight 2 or 3 people on Showtime before that. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was next year before we saw a super heavyweight fight.
Well, Wilder actually said he wants it now, and he says that Joshua, his team, are scared of him because he kind of ends the money train. He's got the punch power to do that.
I get what he's saying. Joshua won't be scared of him, just like he won't be scared of Joshua. They're fighters. But there's people in the background, like for Wilder, there's Al Heyman and Lou DiBella. With Joshua, there's his own team, and there's Eddie Hearn, and that's why these people were left to the business side. It's about when it's the right fight at the right time for everybody, and that's why I'm not being negative about the heavyweight division. I think there's a lot of excitement out there, with particularly with Fury, Wilder, and Anthony Joshua. But I think realistically, it's going to be next year before we see super fights, and we might see 2 or 3 of them next year. Big heavyweight fights. So just be patient. I'm sure they're going to. They will come, those fights, but I can't see anything in the immediate future. Let's hope I'm wrong though.
At the stage that this fight's being made now, this Deontay Wilder versus Luis Ortiz, I feel as though if it was 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, and the fight was made then, you'd be fancying, oh, Luis Ortiz is a big, threat here, and he's that people were crowning him as the sort of uncrowned heavyweight champion.
When he was with Golden Boy, I remember seeing him without looking at his record.
Brian Jennings.
Sorry?
Bryant Jennings fight?
No, it was a show in Las Vegas when he was tested positive afterwards. He knocked out a guy that had moved up. It was one of these Friday night shows at the Hard Rock Hotel. Yeah. And he won that in the round. He flunked a drug test then. And I remember saying to people afterwards, I've just seen him do a job on somebody. That is the kid. Well, not the kid. That is the man who is the man to be avoided in the division.
Then there was the fight with, he's fought Dave Allen. He wasn't particularly impressive in that Dave Allen fight. He'd stopped Dave Allen, but
all respect to Dave Allen, did he just know? Look, I'm not knocking Dave Allen at all, and I hope he wins the Commonwealth title when he gets his return against is it Lemroy Thomas. But I just think that Louis Ortiz went into that fight knowing there was a big gap between himself and Dave.
It just feels as though that the momentum that Luis Ortiz has in his career has stifled somewhat.
But whose fault is that? It's his own fault for the drug problem. He's very lucky to get another chance, to get a world title chance, let alone another chance of any kind.
And does Wilder need to knock him out to keep his credibility, to keep that?
Look, do a number on him. Yeah, I mean, look, when we watch Deontay Wilder, we expect him to chin people. I think he's been the distance once. Is it that first fight with Stavern? We expect him. Look, this is his toughest fight, shall we say, on paper. And if he went and blasted Ortiz out in very, very quickly, it would register. But people will still be expecting him to win the fight, although a hard fight. I don't think taking his time before he gets him out there will damage him at all.
Now, every now and again, while we record this podcast, we do get some breaking news that comes in, and I'm just getting word now that we have a new signing, or Frank Warren has a new signing to the stable, another addition, and it's none other than Ohara Davies. So Ohara Davies, for those who don't know, what's his record? He's 16-1. He's from Hackney. He's a former English champion. He's the colourful super lightweight. Steve, that news has just come in. Ohara Davies. What a stable to join. Obviously, we've got Jack Cattrall, Tyrone Nurse, Terry Flanagan. Talk to me.
Well, that's it. I mean, that's the good thing for Ohara. He's not just joining Frank Warren's stable. He's joining a stable where Frank Warren, looks and promotes some of the best junior welterweights, super lightweights, whatever you call the division, light welterweight in old pounds and pence. He's got some of the best there. Terry Flanagan, Jack Cattrall, you name. There's Tyrone Nurse still. I think Tyrone may move up to welterweight. So if he keeps winning, there's going to be title opportunities for him. Good luck to him.
Well, our man on the ground, Dan Barnard, who's up at Frank Warren's office today, he actually caught up with Ohara Davies and Frank Warren, and we will play that interview right now.
So we're here today with Ohara Davies and Hall of Fame promoter Frank Warren. First of all, guys, great news on Ohara signing a promotional deal with Frank, obviously going to be managed by MTK Global. So first fight, it looks like April 14 at the O2 on the undercard of Billy Joe Saunders' world title defence against Martin Murray, and Terry Flanagan's world title challenge with Maurice Hooker. So first and foremost, you must be delighted.
I'm so glad to be here. I want to thank Frank for giving me this good opportunity to sign to him. Frank's been in the game for years, from way before I was even born. So if anyone knows this game, he's the man that knows this game. Just pleased to be on board. I feel like I've had a hard few months and I just need a new start, and I'm in the best place now.
Like I say, it's been a hard few months for you, so to have that date of April 14th confirmed now gives you something to work forward to.
Especially I haven't fought in months now, so I'm just glad that I'm finally just going to get the ball rolling. I'm back focused. For like last year, I wasn't focused. I had like my mind in the wrong place. I was focused on things that I shouldn't have really been focused on. And now I'm just going to keep my head down for this year, focus on the boxing and get to where I want to get to in this game.
And it looks like a 10-rounder to open things off from April 14th. Moving forward, you got any titles in mind?
I want to win a world title as soon as I can. You know, me and Frank sat down and we had a good talk. I just said I just want to win a world title as soon as I can, and I've got the potential in me. And I feel like now, as long as I keep my head down, I stay focused. I don't see any limits to what I can achieve in this game.
Brilliant. Just a word from you, Frank. Obviously, a huge signing. You know, one that's going to get everyone talking. You must be delighted as well.
I'm delighted. It's a great division in the UK. There's no doubt about that. You know, it's headed up by Terry Flanagan, who's a great fighter, with Jack Cattrall. You know, there's a lot of good fights there to be made over the next year or so. So we're delighted, and it's great for the fans because we're going to make sure these matches happen. And as I say, Ohara's he's a really good quality fighter. He's one of the best out there, and we're looking forward to him fighting under our banner on the 14th of April at the O2 in London.
And as you say, in the Frank Warren stable alone, you've got the likes of Jack Cattrall. So are they fights you're going to be looking to make, hopefully in the near future? I'm
sure their paths will cross down the road. There's no doubt about that. We'll make sure these fights, as I say, will happen. At the moment, let's focus on what they are. Jack's fighting. We'll be announcing his fight this week. He's got quite a big fight coming up, and as I say, let's get these fights on. They're great fights. And Terry's looking for the big fights as well. You know, he's got beat Hooker. If he comes through that, then we're in a really good position with all these guys. They're all world-class fighters.
And Ohara, a quick word for yourself. Obviously, you're going to be fighting on BT Sport and BoxNation. So, what can the viewers expect in the months and years to come?
What they can expect from me: excitement, entertainment, good fights, knockouts, KOs. The real OD's back, and just ready to show the world what I can do.
So yes, big news coming from BoxNation and Frank Warren headquarters today. Frank Warren has signed Ohara Davies on a promotional deal, and he'll be making his debut on the April 14th O2 Arena show, headlined by Billy Joe Saunders taking on Martin Murray, defending his WBO World Middleweight title, and Terry Flanagan taking on Maurice Hooker for the vacant WBO Super Lightweight title. And I'm sure if Terry Flanagan wins that title, he's going to be very much within the sights of Ohara Davies, the new signing to Frank Warren's promotional stable. And as mentioned there, Billy Joe Saunders defending his title on April 14th. He caught up with Steve Lillis a little earlier in the week.
Bill, I dare say the euphoria of beating Lemieux has gone now. It's now Martin Murray. Do you have to perform even better to prove yourself?
I believe so, yes. I mean, you know, it's sort of a I don't know, how do I put it? The only way I can ever come out of credit of this fight is if I knock Martin Murray out. Because, you know, if I beat him, he was old anyway, he was getting on, he got beat 4 times before, but what people fail to realise that he should have been world champion twice. You know, so, and if I do have a close fight with him, Lemieux wasn't that good. You know, it's just one of them, but I just got to make sure that I'm in the best possible shape I can, the fittest I can be in, and bring the best performance. Listen, Martin Murray, the only thing he can bring to me, is like him said himself, is a hard fight. And I think he will do that. It's his last chance, so I'm just looking forward to it now.
When you beat Lemieux, you were saying at the press conference that it was great for you, but it also wasn't so great for you. Can you just explain that a little bit more?
Well, look, the way I look at it is that I knew deep down what I got inside me. I know what I can and can't do. I know my limits deep down. And when I did that to Lemieux, it was like people opened their eyes up. And it was funny because people was texting me for fights on Twitter that I'm chatting to, like Demetrius Andrade. I was saying, yeah, like, we'll get it on before. Like, if you win, like, call me out, we'll have it. I said, yeah, no problem. But after the Lemieux fight, he needed a couple of more fights up the weight. You know, and things like that. So, you know, for business-wise, it wasn't so much of a good move. But for stock-wise, then it was all right. But like I say, now the Golovkin and Canelos are having a real look at me now. Not, oh yeah, we're signing that quick, let's get it done and let's get that belt. Because they know it won't work like that.
obviously you got Martin to come through, but say the winner or even the loser of that didn't want anything to do with you. You know, Frank's already made it clear he doesn't think Canelo wants you. And say Golovkin suddenly went cold on you. What would be the marquee fight for you out there?
When you see, the problem is when you're at that stage as world champion, you're in a good position. You know, I can go to 12 stone. I can make some big fights there. You know, I can go over and fight Danny Jacobs. I can, you know, there's plenty of other big fights there. They're not my only option, but the only option for either of us who holds 4 titles and the man who holds 1 is to see who's good enough to take the lot. So I'm willing to do that. Whether they are or not, I don't know. Listen, they're not scared of no one. Golovkin and Canelo, they're not scared, but their team around them, their guiders are. I think in this may be a bad business move. Maybe. Or they might think, a Martin Murray fight, they might see me box shit, maybe scrape a win and think, yeah, we'll take him.
You're 28 now, you're nearing your peak. Do you think in 2 years' time you'll still be as sharp as you are now?
Listen, I always said when I'm 30, 31, I want to be finished. You know, and this slippers on, giving a few orders out, and that's about it. So we'll see.
Before we let you go, Dominic Ingles telling us about your new teeth. Can you just tell us?
No, they're only whitening. They're like bad whitening. I've got my bottom ones whitened next week, but they're very painful, so I can't really talk about them, to be honest. So nobody try and punch me in the mouth.
Are you vain?
Now, I've got off Dominic. Dominic's very vain. Have you seen Dominic? He'd be in the gym and he'd be training, and he'd Bill, video this. We get the vainness from Dom. Everybody in the Sheffield gym's vain because of Dom.
What is it he's vain? His muscles and
his muscles. He's this. He's that. Matter of fact, like he's just a camera out everywhere he goes. It's freezing cold in Sheffield. He'll be walking up and down with his top off. But he's in good shape for 50, though, isn't he? You've got to give him his due.
Steve, couple of things there from your great interview with Billy Joe Saunders. He says that he's only going to get credit for beating Martin Murray if he knocks him out. What says you?
Hey, if he knocks Martin Murray out, he'll get more than credit, because that'll be some performance. I mean, you know, big punchers at super middleweight like George Groves couldn't. Look at the punishment Martin took from Gennady Golovkin before the fight was ended. I can't see Bill knocking him out. If he does, what an achievement. But no, if Bill can display the boxing skills he's displayed against David Lemieux in Canada, if he repeats that and shows those tricks again, he's gonna get fated for winning on points. I think he's being a little bit harsh on himself there, Dev.
Well, he says that Lemieux win that you just mentioned there was good and bad for him. I think you've alluded to this in the past, Steve, that, you know, he looked terrific, but did he look too terrific? And suddenly your Golovkins and Canelos are second guessing whether or not they want to have that fight.
Well, that's it. You can look so good. You know, you look at it, it's the fight. How high risk is that, and for what reward? That is how people look at it. Not the boxers. You used to say to Canelo, you're fighting Billy Joe Saunders tomorrow. He'll say, I'll fight him tomorrow. Yeah. Golovkin the next day. He's a fighter.
Saunders, you are next, my friend.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, you got it.
And you asked him actually, what's the marquee fight if there is no Canelo, no Golovkin, and he talked about a few options, including stepping up to 12 stone. Now, maybe I'm dreaming here, Steve. Normally you punish me for my dreaming, but here's what I'm thinking. Yeah, Eubank Jr. wins the tournament. He's got all the belts at super middleweight, or a lot of them.
Well,
fights Billy Joe Saunders.
Yeah, we'll have the WBA belt, but you know, that's a fight where Saunders Eubank rematch doesn't need belts if he won that. I mean, that would be the fight for him at the weight. Not just because he's got the win over Chris Eubank Jr. and there's no reason on current form why he wouldn't repeat that win. Or you know, I wouldn't back against him at all. And also, he's not the giant super middleweight like a lot of these guys at 168 pound. You know, you look at George Groves and you stand Billy Joe next to him. You know, he'd be a lot bigger, more his own size. I think if Eubank won that, what goes on and wins the Super 8s, whatever. Apologies for getting the name wrong there. Is it the World
Boxing Super Series?
It's a bit of a mouthful, but a fantastic series it's been. You just think that's the fight for him. George Groves is a beast of a man, a giant. Callum Smith is a monster. Yeah, he looks like a light heavyweight. So there, and Bill wouldn't be a big super middleweight. We look at Martin Murray, who's tried his luck at super middleweight, and you could argue he's a bigger middleweight than Billy Joe.
Yeah.
And I'm not here, weighing on his chips at all. But I think the only fight for him around that weight would be Chris Eubank Jr.
Do you think he'll retire at 30, 31 like he's suggesting?
You know what? I think a lot of these fighters talk of it a lot. Now, you know what? And they've got good intentions of retiring. Amir Khan said for years he'll retire at 28, and here he is now, and he's 30. 30, still boxing.
Beth Feast Enders, isn't he?
Yeah. and what it is with these guys are, they get to 30, 31, they're still champions. Hold on, but there's another £2 million there.
Yeah.
There's oh gosh, there's that fight. Hold on, if this guy coming through has a couple of wins, I could fight him. Wow, how good would that be? That's another £1 million. It's almost like I think it was Lennox Lewis said once, in an off-the-cuff conversation once with a few reporters, it always stuck me. He said, if you got 50 million in the bank, you always want 52 million. Very hypothetical, these numbers. That was the sort of numbers he was saying. And I think it's very hard. It's very rare that someone does walk away unbeaten. And someone like Joe Calzaghe did it. He knew it was coming to the end. I know it was Hopkins and Jones. They weren't what they were, but they still, gave him a torrid time. Yeah. And I think Joe knew it was coming to the end. And Joe hadn't lost since he was, someone will correct me, the fight. I think it was about 13 or 14 years of age, the last time he lost. And he hated the thought of losing. Yeah. He absolutely detested it. And that's why he walked away. And every boxer hates the thought of losing. But I find someone like, most of them, and I'd say I'd put Billy Joe in that bracket. He'll get the 31. If he's still unbeaten then, and there's big money fights out there, he'll box on.
Yeah, absolutely. And you had the benefit. Obviously, you interviewed Billy. You mentioned his teeth that have been he's had a bit of a job on them. So how impressive were those pearly whites, Steve, up close? I didn't get that close to him.
Do you know what? I noticed them beforehand. I thought, his teeth look well. He looks really well. Because Bill suddenly, usually, look, you've been around Billy for a few years now. You see him 3 months before a fight. You know he's been up drinking Coca-Cola and playing snooker and down the pub.
Absolutely.
I thought he looks well. He looks really healthy in himself. Yeah. And they're saying his teeth sort of smiled at me, and I just thought, he had a polish on his teeth, and then of course Dominic Ingle decided to spill all at the press conference. But you know what? I don't blame Dominic for the wind-ups he gets from Billy Joe Saunders. Billy says he's very vain. He was telling me there, 50-year-old man who whips his top off all the time. So I think it's Bants as you young guns will call
Bants, yes, Steve. Good Bants.
Down with the kids, Bants.
Yes, my man, right here. Let's fist bump. I know you can't hear us fist bumping, but we have just fist bumped, me and Steve Lillis. So Dom Ingle, good shape for 50. Another man who's in good shape for his age is Frank Warren, and you caught up with Frank Warren just after the press conference last week.
Slow couple of weeks to the new year with announcements, but you've come thick and fast in the last few days.
We've been working very hard. It's just been getting certain things over the line, and today is a really strong card that we've announced for the O2 on the 14th of April here in London. And I'm delighted that Bill's back in town. I'm delighted that he's got that after that fantastic performance that he had in Canada, that he's back over here, and you only got to look at him. He's got a bit between his teeth, so. For us, it's a good day. He's got a tough opponent, Martin Murray. He's a good campaigner, tough as old boots. He's been very unlucky in his career. There's a couple of fights where he's challenged for world titles where a lot of people, and certainly myself on one occasion, thought he got the wrong end of the decision. But this for him is a last roll of the dice, I think, as far as winning the title. He knows Bill very well. They know each other. It's going to be, the styles are going to make it a good fight. You've got one guy who can box and can punch, and Bill, certainly we know he can box. He's got fantastic boxing brain, but he can whack as well when he needs to pull the big punch out the bag. So I'm looking forward to that fight.
And Terry Flanagan against Morris Hooker, an unbeaten America, who's a lot bigger than Terry as well. It's not an easy one. Although people might not know Hooker, they look at the draw with Perez. If you can just explain how hard is this fight?
It's a tough fight. He's 6'1". I mean, Terry's not fought anybody, I don't believe, who's that tall. He's rangy. As you say, he's undefeated fighters. Undefeated fighters are undefeated for a reason, because no one's beat them. And Terry, both of them going into the fight as undefeated fighters. So Terry's got to be top of his game. But I think Terry's He's had a few problems last year with injuries, and he's out the ring for a while. This time now is got to be his time. Hopefully all those especially that tendon problem he had is behind him, and he can move onwards and upwards. He's a quality operator. He's moving up to to win a title in the higher division. So I'm quite sure he's going to be top of his game. I know Steve Malett will be doing really be putting every effort into making sure that Terry comes in 100%. And if he does, I think he can win it. I think he can win the fight and set himself up some really big fights.
I mean, you might have time to pop home after that show, because straight away you move over to Belfast for Frampton Donaire. Now, that's one of the best fights in the world so far this year, isn't it?
I agree. I mean, I think Donaire, I'm not being disrespectful to other fighters, I think he's probably the best fighter that's ever gone to Belfast. I can't think of two. I'm sort of wrapping my brains a bit on that one, and I think he is. I mean, the quality of him. So, him and Carl is going to be something special. The atmosphere is going to be special. It's more or less sold out now, and I think we're getting in for a treat. So we're hitting the ground running. We got two good shows for the 14th and for the 21st, and I think the fans are going to love what we're delivering.
What's your opinion as a promoter? The same night there's a show with Amir Khan in Liverpool, because TV viewers subscribe to two channels. It's tough. It's tough on them, isn't it?
It's tough on them. It's tough on everyone. And at the end of the day, it's stupid, because we announced our date. We had our date booked, and we announced it before anybody else. You divide yours. I mean, if you're getting a good rating on TV, and even if it takes away 10% of your viewers to watch the other channel, that is suddenly not as good a rating as last time. So that's not good for boxing, and that's certainly not good for them either on the other on Sky. So I'm a bit disappointed with that. You wouldn't get Arsenal and Spurs playing the same night on Sky and BT up against each other, or Man United, Man City. It just wouldn't happen. And sometimes I get annoyed that they teach. Sometimes boxing gets treated like a bastard sport. That it doesn't matter, but it does matter. It means a lot. It matters a lot to the fans, and it matters a lot to people who care about boxing.
Is there an answer to how it can be solved?
Yeah, we had our date. If somebody else has got a date on, then we do our best to avoid it. I've moved shows when rather than clash, because I don't see the sense of it. Boxing doesn't benefit from that. There's no benefit at all whatsoever for the sport in doing that, in clashing of dates. There is no benefit, and it's not just some promoters probably don't give a monkeys. Maybe they're not here for the long term. I don't know, but for a sport, the sport needs the sport itself collectively needs to ensure that doesn't happen. It's no good to anybody.
Is there a way to solve it? Sitting down, broadcasters, promoters.
Well, broadcasters have a lot to do with this as well. I mean, they should do it. As I say, they wouldn't let it happen in other sports. You don't get two rugby, two home nation matches on exactly the same time, do you? It just doesn't happen. They spread them all out and things like that. So it's just not. It doesn't make sense. I'm just hoping that that it won't happen again in the future.
Something to make you a bit happier. Moving on to Leeds in May 19. Josh Warrington, challenging Lee Selby. Another great fight.
It's a cracking fight, isn't it? It's one that we've all been waiting for, and I am looking forward to that. So, we're having a press conference next week when we're going to announce the venue. I think it's going to be exciting, and I think again it's another good quality fight that we put together.
And I'll ask you, Steve, you can give it away. Frampton or Donaire going to face the winner?
Well, that'd be where we, at the end of the day, that was always sort of the game plan. So we'll see how it all pans out, and if it does pan out, how we hope it'll pan out, I think we're going to deliver what the fans want, which is the best fights, the best fighting the best.
Now, Steve, you asked him about the whole TV dates clashing business, and Frank obviously he has a lot to say on that. He mentioned that there's absolutely no benefit to the fans and boxing. It's almost echoing your what you talking about Lilith segment from a couple of weeks back.
Yeah, that was it. I think it was last week or the week before, and it is a big issue. And all I can do is echo what Frank said and what I said on the podcast previously, that TV executives have got to sit down and let's say what dates we're going to have. If they put down on a piece of paper or at a meeting, these are the dates we want, and then the other side say these are the dates we want, and then you thrash it out like, well, you pick the first date, you have second pick, you have third pick. Look, they can get together, TV companies. Look, when the World Cup draw is made, they get together. Who's having England's first game? Who's having England's second game? Who has the third game? Who has the last 16? Who has the quarter-final? Then they both have the semi-final if they want it for England. But they both know, even though we all know they're never going to get there. That's how they work it out. Let's do this for boxing. All sit down. We've got these 10 dates. We've got these 5 dates. We've got these 10 dates over the next 5 months. And then you thrash out, well, we want that date. You have that. And then you go around in a...
But Steve, it's almost like it makes too much sense.
Look, that's why it's easy to do, but sometimes the simplest things in life people don't see. Let's just hope it's sorted out for the sake of fans, because they're the ones paying subscriptions to channels, be it on BT and BoxNation, Sky, or paying $16.95 or $9.95, whatever ITV box office are charging for a show. Let's have some common ground between the broadcasters. And then they go back to the promoters and say, these are the dates you've got. Work on them.
Well, that show is on April the 14th. It's a big world title double-header. Billy Joe Saunders defends his title against Martin Murray, Flanagan Hooker, also for the vacant WBO title. Tickets are now on sale for that show. And we've just actually heard in this podcast that Ohara Davies has been added to that card. He'll be making his debut for Frank Warren on that show at the O2 Arena. So my advice is get some tickets as soon as possible. There's Valentine's Day coming up for all you lovers out there. I'm looking at you, Steve Lillis. Look at those lovable eyes.
Look, Dev.
Yeah.
You and Mrs. Sani, you've only been married since the summer. When you've been with Mrs. L, like I've been since 1997, the love is just there. February the 14th is just another day in our life.
God.
The love comes every day.
Well, I'm sure you'll still be giving Mrs. Lillis some sort of
she'll
gift.
get a night. Yeah, Mrs. L will get a night out.
Exactly. Well, what I would say here is, for all those listening to the podcast, forget the chocolates. Yeah. Forget the flowers. Forget the candlelit meal, because all you need to buy your partner is the gift of boxing. 2 world title fights at the O2 Arena, April 14th. She'll thank you for it, or he. Won't he, Steve?
Yeah,
or she?
yeah. Hey, April 14th, great night at the O2, fantastic venue. You can get there early evening. There's stacks of restaurants. I think there's a few bars you can go in afterwards, make a proper night of it. The tubes run all night now. I don't live in London, but I believe they run all night. You've got no excuses not to go and make a night of it. And you could have a meal beforehand. The boxing can be the sandwich filler in the middle. And then on the outside, you can go and have a few drinks in the O2 Arena afterwards. And then get home on your Oyster card about 2 in the morning.
Very nicely put. Go to frankwarren.com if you want to come down and join us on April the 14th. Now, as we heard at the end of the interview with Frank Warren there, it is now finally official. Lee Selby versus Josh Warrington live on May 19th on BoxNation. It's for the IBF World Featherweight title. We'll leave Frank Warren to confirm the venue, but I know it's a good one, and I'm sure Steve knows as well. What do you say about this rivalry between Selby and Warrington?
It's great. It's a domestic world title fight, and it's not one where a promoter is getting fighters to get at it just for the sake of it. It's genuine British beef.
Yeah, premium
it's
British
genuine
beef.
British beef, not one that's been done on Twitter.
Sure.
Warrington's really got the needle with Selby. I don't know I do know. I think what it dates back to when they were both with Matchroom. Josh Warrington and Lee Selby were at a Matchroom barbecue, and I don't think Josh felt he was a bit disrespected by Lee Selby that day.
Steve, are you suggesting that the beef started at the barbecue?
It did, but after the burgers.
Fantastic.
But no, I think Josh has mentioned this briefly to me before. There was at this though, and he felt there wasn't a lot of respect from Lee Selby. I don't know. I'm just hearing one side of it. And when I mentioned it to Lee, or where did you meet? He said, I met him at a Matchroom do once, but just briefly. And I don't think he even really. But Josh has really fired himself up for this fight, where if he fought Carl Frampton, there'll be right needle there, but nothing like this. There is genuine dislike from him, and that's rebounded onto Lee Selby. And I think there's going to be a press conference at some stage this week, and that could be lively, the face-off.
Is there a danger that Josh Warrington is too fired up about Lee Selby?
There is always a great chance of that. You speak to Josh how he's got to control his inner emotions. His dad Sean O'Hara and Nick Manners and all the team up there will be getting him mentally right before the fight, but it's going to be hard for him to control those emotions that night. This is the fight he's wanted for years. He's the challenger. It's in his hometown, where after Leeds United Football Club, he is the sporting hero. You know, obviously you've got the Rugby League Club as well, but he is a sporting hero of the city, and all hopes are on him to become a world champion for Leeds and Yorkshire, which is a county that sees itself pretty much as an independent state anyway, don't they? In Yorkshire, I mean, they're in some sort of international football tournament at the moment. Even, you know, the People's Republic of Yorkshire. So, hey, there's going to be pressure on him from all angles. There's going to be big demands of the media from him, and Leeds is going to turn up on the night, not wondering if he's going to be crowned world champion, but expecting him to be crowned world champion.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned, that he's a massive deal in Leeds. I remember actually hearing that at a local curry house, they named a curry after him, the Rogan Josh Warrington.
Really?
You aware of that?
Oh,
yeah.
I think we're going to be filming a Fighter by Trade, Deb, so you should be coming along, giving us all these pointers you picked up from Josh Warrington.
Look, if there's a free curry in it for me, I'm there.
The Rogan Josh Warrington, I'm going to go and have some of that when we do the Fighter by Trade with him in a month or so. Well, we hope to do the Fighter by Trade. We haven't asked Josh yet, but
no, he'll be fine. He's a good guy.
And if he says no, I'm going to send you round to sort him out.
He don't want this work, but he knows that. He doesn't want this work. Now, another big featherweight dust-up coming up is Carl Frampton versus Nonito Donaire. It will be Frampton's second fight under the new trainer, under the tutelage of Jamie Moore. And Steve Lillis caught up with Jamie Moore.
Jamie, you must be looking forward to getting Carl Frampton back in camp for the second time under you.
Yeah, certainly am. It's one of those fights what, you know, as a trainer, everyone wants to be involved in. Two of the best fighters in the world at the weight, you know, 4-weight world champion is the guy in the opposite corner, so you've got your work cut out. Tactics wise, you know, you have to make sure you get it spot on, and I've been watching him. He's a fantastic fighter, as we know, but he's 35 now, and he's had to adapt his style a little over the last few years, just because you can't do the same stuff at 35 what you could when you're 25, 30. So but he's got more experience now. You know, he's 35, and the longer you go on in your career, the more you pick up and the more you realise how sort of brazen you was when you was younger. So he'll bring different problems in that aspect. But you know, he's a dangerous puncher, and there's lots of things to be cautious about. But there's also a lot of things to be confident about, and analysing both guys and looking at the strengths and the weaknesses. I just feel that Carl's you know, nicks in every department. Probably maybe Donaire in the power department, but you know, I think Carl on his night is going to be too good for him, and this is the sort of fight what will bring the best out of him, because 30 years old, 2-weight world champion, you need to feel that, you know, fear. You need the nerves in your belly to bring the best out of you. And talking to him on the phone straight away, as soon as the fight was sort of getting spoke about, you could sense it in his voice that he was a little bit nervous about it, but that's a good thing. For someone at his stage of his career, it's a good thing to be nervous, and I'm sure it'll bring the best out of him.
I mean, although Donaire is 35, Frampton against Nonito is still one of the best fights at 9 stone in the world, isn't it?
Of course it is. You know, Walters, he's the only person to have stopped him, but Walters can whack. And, you know, other than that, he's been in some fantastic fights. And so has Carl. So just that alone, you know, their styles will blend and make for a great fight. And like I say, you know, tactically, we've got to get it right. His last fight, the first half of the fight, he boxed beautiful. He did some of the best stuff I've seen him do ever. But being out of the ring for 11 months is not good for any fighter at that stage of your career. Any stage of your career, in fact. So to come back against a Mexican who's only lost 3 times, who's never been stopped, and he was huge for the weight, big, strong kid, who's coming in against an ex-world champion. That's his world title fight. You know, he's going to perform above and beyond what he's ever performed before. So it was always going to be a hard night's work if it went past 5 or 6 rounds, which it did. And I thought Carl dealt with it well. He struggled late on a little bit gas-wise because he'd been out of the ring for that long. And you know, he got through. He got a win. It was close in the end, but he got the win. And I think, even though it wasn't an ideal way to come back after 11 months, in the long run, that will do him good, because going in against someone Donaire now, again, on the back of that, is better for him than going in off the back of a 2 or 3 round blowout against someone who beat easily. So, you know, it wasn't an ideal comeback fight for him to come back to Belfast, but in the long run, it'll do him the world of good.
Although you knew Carl's fighting style well before he came to you, you didn't know, you admitted you didn't know him that much as a person. You'd met once or twice briefly. How much easier will it be for you second time around in camp? Now you've got to know him as a person, what he does in training.
I think it's always easier second time round. I think he understands me as well. I think it works both ways. I think I know him better now. I know his attributes physically. I know how his mind works a bit more mentally. And he understands my methods, my routines. You know, it won't all be brand new to him. Physically, it's different when you change your training slightly. I tried to keep it as close to what he was doing before as possible, because my big thing is if it's not broke, don't fix it. So strength training, for instance, I didn't touch it. I took him to a conditioner and said, just mirror what he was doing before, because I don't want it changing. And you know, I've picked up a few little things where maybe we could have improved on from last time, because sort of that was a little bit of a work in progress, in the sense that it was our first time together. So I just think second time round, everything will fall into place straight away, rather than trying to shift it and move it into place, and it should be much smoother this time.
What were the little things you picked up on that you thought you did to?
Well, I just think that Carl's. I've always been a big believer in the older you get, the less hard physical training you can do.
Is that sparring, you mean?
Not just sparring. You know, tough physical work in general, because Carl's been an athlete for so long now. He's not building an engine, he's just fine-tuning it, and it doesn't take 10 or 12 weeks to get fit. It takes maybe 7 or 8, as long as you come into camp in generally good condition. So, you know, we didn't have that long last time, and, you know, we've both agreed that we could have done with another week or two, really. Because and it wasn't through any fault of ours, to be fair. It was the fact that he was looking for a new trainer. He came to me, and then boom, from that point on, we had 8 weeks, and it worked just. But we agreed that we could do with starting just a couple of weeks more. Sparring wise, I still believe we get it right, because I think if he'd have sparred twice as many rounds as he did last time, then he'd have been in trouble against Horacio Garcia, because he'd have had a lot more miles on the clock going into that fight, and mentally he would have been having stages in that fight where he'd been thinking, oh, I've left it in the gym, and it was a good job that he was going into that fight fresh.
Do you still feel there's pressure on you as a trainer with Carl? Given that, you know, though you've been, your vast experience as a professional boxer, boxing at world level, boxing the best, beating the best, but as a trainer, you're new, and there were people saying, why has he gone to Jamie Moore? Yeah. And I don't think that was disrespecting you when they said that.
And I accept that, and I don't think there'll ever be a spotlight not on a trainer, not just me, but any trainer who's working with someone like Carl Frampton. I think it goes hand in hand, unless you've been working with them for years. You know, say someone like Ricky Hatton with Billy Graham. The spotlight was never on Billy, really, because Billy was with Ricky. Whereas when fighters at the top level change trainers, there's always going to be a bit of a spotlight or questions asked. It goes with the game, it goes with the territory. It doesn't bother me in any sense, because I'm confident in my own ability. I know that we get it right. I've been around the game for 25 years. I know I only look 25, but you can't believe it, can you? But I just think that everything I've picked up over the years, the experiences, the people I've been around, all those little things that I took on board, I'm able to then pass on to these other fighters who I'm helping. So, and I've said this many times, I don't feel like a trainer as such. I feel like I'm in a gym helping out other fighters, and I know that's sort of the same thing, but I see a trainer as someone who's 50-year-old, 60-year-old, like Mick off Rocky, who's like, you know, get this done, get that done. I'm not a trainer in that sense. I'm sort of someone who analyses stuff and says, listen, look what he does here. This is what you need to avoid, or this is what you can exploit. You know, tactically, I like to break things down a little bit better in that sense. I don't see myself as a conventional trainer.
Well, Steve, lots to catch up on. Another fantastic interview there, and that was Jamie Moore. He says that they, himself and Carl Frampton, understand each other better now. They've had more time to bed in. How did he seem to you? Does he seem content with his relationship with Carl?
Yeah, he's very happy. Carl's a very easy person to get along with. I've got to know Carl pretty well over the last few months. Knew him a little bit before then, but very easy fella, very laid back, almost too nice at times. And the understanding will be a lot better now. It'd be Carl's second camp in Manchester. I think, last time he was staying at a hotel near the gym there on the outskirts of Manchester. He was at a hotel in Worsley. Now I think he's sharing a house with Conrad Cummins. And I don't think Jamie Moore is tinkering too much with what Shane McGuigan was doing with him before.
That's what he said there.
I don't think you need to. When you're at the stage of Carl's career, and when you've had so much success with that style, you can tinker with it a little bit, but it would be madness to change it completely. He might do little things. I don't think Jamie wants Carl to spar as many rounds as he was. There's more miles on the clock now. He's getting a bit older, so that adds up. So I don't think he's going to change too much from what Shane McGuigan was doing with him. And Jamie's very intelligent. And he knows that. It's not as if it's a kid who was 15-0, who's been learning his weight and suddenly comes to him at 23, 24 years of age. Yeah. We're talking someone, and Carl won't mind me saying this, who's in the home stretch of his career.
Sure.
There's 5-6 fights. Doesn't mean there's stacks more for him to achieve, and there's plenty of huge fights out there.
Meaningful fights,
starting with Nonito Donaire, but they're all going to be meaningful now. And he's not going to go on for 5-6 years or anything. But the thing what staggers me, how busy Jamie Moore is with his fighters. He was one of Britain's best boxers not to win a world title. Very unlucky.
He was in the wrong era.
Very unlucky. They did everything else. Real shame. But he's pretty new to training. But because Oliver Harrison hasn't been very well, and thankfully Oliver is on the road to recovery, he's still nowhere near ready enough to train his stable of fighters. So for the next few months, he's got to look after Carl Frampton, Martin Murray, Rocky Fielding, Tommy Coyle, Conrad Cummins, and Stephen Ward might even be there. There could be one or two others. They've all got big fights coming up around April time. So Jamie's had a deserved 4 or 5 day break in Dubai with his wife Colleen and their 2 lovely kids. And this morning he's back in the gym getting this lot ready. I think Carl moves into camp this week. Moves back to Manchester. I saw
some tweets today actually.
Yeah, he's
back. So I
think Jamie's on his way back from his little break. But what Carl does, he goes home on a Friday afternoon now about 4 o'clock. There's a flight from Manchester to Belfast, and then what he'll do, he comes back. I think he takes the kids to school on a Monday, and then he comes back to Manchester on Monday lunchtime for training.
Of course,
so he does get home, which is really.
He's got daddy duties, hasn't he? Of course, Carl Frampton.
He's we all see these boxers, and of course, most of them are family men. You're devoted to your wife and kids, but Carl, it is his life, and to him, getting back home at weekends to see his wife and children will make him a happy fighter. And a happy fighter's a content fighter when he goes into the ring.
And it'll also make his wife happy. And you know what they say? Happy wife, happy life. Something I'm certainly living by. Let me ask you something else here, Steve. Did you ever see Shane McGuigan train Carl? And if so, how can that compare to what you've seen with Jamie? Because you spent time with Carl and Jamie up at the gym.
Yeah, I haven't seen him with Shane McGuigan. I'm just going by that he isn't changing too much. I think what Jamie does do, he'll have an easy day, then a tough day. There won't be back-to-back tough days. I just think the main difference I think they're going to be doing, as I said a little bit earlier, I think they're doing less sparring now than what they was. But I think this camp will come together a lot better because there's a better understanding of each other. There's a better understanding of the area for Carl Frampton when he's living in Manchester. I do believe he's got a flat now, which is better than living in a hotel room.
Of course.
But Conrad Cummins tells me that living with him, he's the most boring flatmate ever because all he does is sit at home all night looking at cookery programs and videos, telling Conrad how he's going to cook them when he's out of training. And that's all he watches is cooking programs.
Now, we had a big world title double header this past weekend on BoxNation from the States. Jorge Linares successfully defended his WBA and Ring Magazine lightweight titles against Mercito Hester. Lucas Matisse also returned to action and finally won a world title as he knocked out unbeaten and unknown Thai fighter Tawar Kiram in 8 rounds to capture the WBA World Welterweight Championship. Steve, you were in the studio. Let's start with Linares. Were you impressed?
Look, it was Linares, as we all know. At times, he was like a sexy beast and fantastic on the eye.
Sexy beast.
The other times, there was times where you watched a fight and you think he's beatable. You can see, and Gester, I thought for 4 or 5 rounds gave him, for the first 5 rounds we all watched it in the studio and we thought
it kept coming, didn't he?
Yeah, it was good. And then it was over the second half of the fight I gave Linares the last 7 rounds and made him a clear win. I think it was 117, 111. Look, Gester wasn't the greatest challenger. The second half of the fight, he didn't do a lot, if at all. Linares, we saw a glimpse of how brilliant he can be. He's very good, that there's no doubt. But you see why Mikey Garcia would fancy the job and Vasyl Lomachenko if he moved up. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what Golden Boy do with Linares, because he's a legitimate and very, very good world champion.
Yeah.
But he's not a pay-per-view star, is he?
No.
I mean, he must probably got more fans in this country for his performances against Crolla Mitchell or more recently Luke Campbell than he has in America. So what they must be thinking, now, what do we do with him? Do we cash him in one of these big fights where we're putting all our chips on the table to lose a title? It's a decision they've got to make, and I'd put him in the fight because he can go along. But these sort of guys, if he keeps fighting the guys like Gester for the next year, he's just going to be treading water. He's got to go in one of these super fights now. And Garcia or Lomachenko are ones that will get fans tuning in. But I still think it's a big ask for him to win those fights. I really do.
Yeah, he's never really had like a kind of home, has he? I mean, he started off he's Venezuelan, so I guess he started off in Venezuela, went over to Japan for a while, he's fought over in the UK, he's fought in America, and normally when you get these fighters going around everywhere, their fan base, you never really get a chance to sort of establish a rabid fan base, and I think Linares has suffered from that. But yeah, I'd love to see Lomachenko, he's my guy.
Yeah, he's a great fight. Look, Lomachenko is that good. The only thing that beats him going through the weights, and I think he can do lightweight for sure, and I'd back him against Linares.
Didn't he fight a lightweight in the amateurs, Lomachenko?
Yeah, that's 60 kilograms. I think that's around 9 stone 6, something like that. So you're in between super feather and lightweight, but he's certainly good enough to win world titles at lightweight. I do believe, but the only thing I think that beats him is moving through the weights. And guys are just too big and strong and can manhandle him. That's where the problem is going to come. I mean, maybe if the right champion, he could face at 140 pound, but can you really see him going to say 147? I think he could get as far as light welterweight, but what would beat him would be purely somebody's size of some of these guys, because some of these welterweights, these light welterweights even, they're beasts. Look how big Crawford's moved up, but 140 pound, he looked huge. He looked big enough at 135. Even someone like Terry Flanagan. He's going to be a big 140-pound fighter.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's Linares. What about Matisse? Now, something, he's won his first world title, but there's just that little, small, tiniest of asterisks which says regular. Okay, so he's won the WBA regular world welterweight title because Keith Thurman has the super world welterweight title. So people have been saying Matisse's won a world title, but secretly, has he won a world title, Steve?
Look, to me, Thurman is the champion for the organisation at that weight. He's won a world title. What this guarantees him is he's got some bargaining power. He's going to get a big fight out of it. The other night, to me, it was an awful fight, great finish. Kiram was badly hurt from the right hand, had no need to get up from it. It was a great right hand that he found in the 8th round.
Went down heavily, didn't he?
Went down heavily. He got up, and then the ending was bizarre with the left jab because he went down about 5 seconds after it. Now, I'm not going to, because that first knockdown was so heavy, I'm not going to put question. A lot of people in America have been pretty brutal about saying that was a dive, but that he wouldn't have got up from the first knockdown. Is my train of thought. If and you know
he left in an ambulance.
He left in an ambulance. So I'm not going to. If a man leaves in an ambulance, I'm not going to cast aspersions on whether he, he swallowed it or not. But what is certain, Matisse showed in that 8th round why he would at least go into a fight against a Spence, Furman or Crawford with a puncher's chance. You wouldn't give him much else chance because let's be honest, he looked shocking until the ending. He looked like as if the camp hadn't good God. Nothing, it just didn't look good at all. And I just think since the Garcia fight, as I said on this podcast previously and in the studio Saturday night, the invincibility was taken to him from the Danny Garcia fight.
Well, he said that he wants, in his next fight, he's very interested in a rematch with Danny Garcia or a fight with Pacquiao.
Yeah, look, Pacquiao, I think Pacquiao's going to end up going the Crawford route later this year. But Danny Garcia, look, he wants to redeem himself. Go and fight Danny Garcia. But I'm a great believer in whoever won the first fight, if they won it comfortably, wins the rematch. Look at that first fight. What did you see in that first fight, Dev, that would give Matisse any chance of revenge? Nothing. He'd go into that fight with a puncher's chance, just like he would against Spence, Furman, Crawford.
We went into that with all the momentum in the world. He was the monster knocking everyone out. And
this is it. It's like a lot of punchers. Once the momentum's taken from them, it's gone. You know, if the air invincibility goes about a man, it goes.
And if you put that fight to Danny Garcia, if his advisor says to him, okay, here's your options. Do you want to fight Lucas Matisse again? What is going to make him say, yeah, do you know what? I'll fight him again. When he's dispelled the myth of Lucas Matisse.
Because he's got a belt, and if I beat him, I will definitely get my big fight against Spence, Furman or Crawford. But it's down to, look, Garcia hasn't, his career has seemed to have stagnated as well, through, I don't know whose fault it is. But I think he's coming back soon. But
Brandon Rios.
It certainly seems to, and he'll beat Rios, I'm sure. Unless it was almost like Matisse the other night. He had to have lost 90% of what he had to lose that the other night, and it's the same with Garcia when he fights Brandon Rios. Although Rios has given us some great nights, particularly on BoxNation, some of the fights he's been in. But no, Garcia would take the fight because he's got a title, and it's the last time we fought, I've beaten him hands down.
Well, there's more live boxing this Saturday night with another double world title show live on BoxNation, this time from Texas, as Gilberto Ramirez defends his WBO World Super Middleweight title against Habib Ahmed, and the upcoming Filipino sensation Jerwin Ancayas defends his IBF World Super Flyweight title against Israel Gonzalez. We'll be live from 2 a.m. late Saturday night for this one. Steve, break down this card for me.
Well, for Ramirez, it looks, who knows, it looks a gimme on paper, doesn't it?
Don't know much about the Habib Ahmed.
No, it was a surprising, look, these guys pop up in the top 15, these ratings, and they get these fights. But for me, if you go back, I think he's had a lot of injury problems, Ramirez, and he started having to go the distance. I think it's like something like 5-6 fights on the trot now. He's been the distance, 5 or 6 fights on the trot since, and when you think, you go back to 2014 and people were talking about him as Bob Arum certainly was, as a future pay-per-view star. And actually, when he was naming his future three pay-per-view stars, I think one was Oscar Valdez and one was Ramirez. And I can't think who the other one was, but that was the sort of glowing references he was getting. So Ramirez, for him, really, he needs to, show people why what Aaron was saying a few years ago wasn't just Bob Bluster. It's a division where he'll be looking at again, like everybody, he'll be looking at a winner of the World Super Series, where George Groves, Callum Smith, Chris Eubank are all vying. At the moment, George Groves is the man with that belt. WBC, the young WBC champion David Benavidez is another possibility. Shame, and then of course the IBF champion Caleb Truax, who beat James DeGale in the upsetter last year. And I think James must be just recovering, thinking where did it all go wrong? So I think the Benavidez fight was as good as made for April, from what I'm hearing. So it's about Ramirez. If he doesn't look good, it's all made for him to look good, and I expect him to. As for Jerwin Asajas against Israel Gonzalez, is he the heir apparent to Manny Pacquiao? Bob Arum, he's got the hots for him, like he did for Ramirez a few years ago. We first saw him on Box Nation on the Horn Pacquiao undercard.
We did, yeah.
He hammered a Japanese fighter, Kinoshita, in about 7 rounds. And of course, the brave Jamie Conlon, who just kept taking punishment and punishment. He got him out of the way. This is the 4th defence. This ESPN contract that Aram's got is going to be big. Is going to bring great exposure for Ansajas. Free TV in America, that can only help his profile. But people will look at it as a negative that Bob Arum is saying they're going to do it their own way. He's going to keep away from that Superfly series, which is really good. You know, when you think the obvious fights are Shrisaket, Ringvasai, Estrada, or Juan Francisco Estrada, Carlos Cuadros, and Inoue, if he's going to stay at the weight.
Well, he's gone up, hasn't he? I think Inoue. I think he's gone up.
He's still He's still got the WBO belt, but he's been threatening to go up. And so if he's going to go, they're the sort of fights he's got to be mixing in. But obviously Bob's got his own plans for him. Maybe he's going to let that lot all bash each other up, and then when he's fresh as a daisy. But he's a real feel-good story of Sages. When he won the world title, I think he got $3,600, and he had to pay $1,000 of that towards the sanctioning fees for the IBF because there was no one behind him.
Right.
He is a feel-good story, so you can't help but wish him all the best, and I hope it all goes really well for him in his career.
You touched upon something there, Steve, which kind of perked my ears. So he's kind of looks a bit like Pacquiao, dare I say. He fights a little bit like Pacquiao, and you squint your eyes enough in the Jamie Conlon fight in particular, that's kind of Manny Pacquiao in there if you squint your eyes enough. Now, when Manny Pacquiao burst onto the scene, he was fighting high level opposition on HBO, and the Barreras, Morales, etc., and that made his name. If Ancajas is going this route of not fighting in that Superfly kind of picture, the fighters that you mentioned, Cuadras, etc., has he got the chance to make that same sort of impact that Manny Pacquiao did?
Well, as I say, the ESPN, I think, helps that sort of coverage because more people will be watching him on ESPN, mad as it sounds, than it will these Superfly shows that have been fantastic. These fights that Tom Loeffler's putting together, they've been absolutely brilliant.
So it's this idea of feasting on lower level opposition, looking better.
And I'm sure, look, it's about right fights, right times. It's an old cliche, but it's true. And I'm sure Bob Arum will put him in when he feels the time's right. But at the moment, he's just trying to build something in America, get some profile over there. And the fight on Saturday night is all about that. And if Ancajas and Ramirez both get beat Saturday night, or one of them got beat, it will be an early contender for upset of the year, particularly Ramirez.
Now here's some dates and times for you to punch into your calendar over the next few days on Box Nation. We are of course a 24/7 boxing channel, so Thursday 2 o'clock it's another episode in the Box Nation Presents series, and this time we look back at Joe Calzaghe versus Kabari Salam. And Kabari, if you are listening, please forgive me for any mispronunciation there. Steve, do you remember this fight?
Yeah, Kabari was an Egyptian. I think he lived in New York. Apologies if it wasn't to Kabari if he's listening and it wasn't New York, but I think he was from Brooklyn. At the time, Joe was getting a lot of doubters at the time at how good he was. Frank Warren was always banging the drum how good Joe Calzaghe was, and a lot of people thought it was promotional bluster. And 3 or 4 fights later, they knew what Frank was talking about, because that was when he defeated Jeff Lacey, when he gave out that fearful beating in Manchester, when Showtime come over with an entourage, a cast of thousands, expecting just to go home with the title, and never seen so many people in a state of shock at 4 a.m. in Manchester in the early hours of the morning as the Showtime crowd that night.
There's some parallels, and Frank actually mentioned this at the press conference to Billy Joe Saunders' career, and his, the standout performance, coming out party, if you will, was David Lemieux, Joe Calzaghe, Jeff Lacey, and then from then, big monster fights. Hey, and maybe he'll, beat Canelo, beat Golovkin, and finish unbeaten.
Wouldn't that be fantastic? It did mirror the last, the home stretch of Joe's career. That will be absolutely marvellous. I'm sure. I just hope those fights are there for Billy Joe. But let's not underestimate Martin Murray in April.
Absolutely.
It's his last chance. He's in the last chance saloon, and as he says himself, that makes him a dangerous man. You know, he knows he's just. It's his 5th and final world title chance, and in his mind he knows he's 36 minutes from the end of his career. That's what makes him dangerous on the night.
Very nicely put, Steve. Well, that's going to be Thursday at 2 o'clock. A look back at Joe Calzaghe versus Kabari Salim. Thursday at 3:30, we've got Josh Warrington against Dennis Shailen, and that's from a fight from last October, where Josh Warrington made himself unavoidable for Lee Selby, scoring a stoppage win over the previously unbeaten Dane and becoming the #1 contender, the mandatory for Lee Selby. Do you remember that fight well, Steve?
Yeah, great night for Josh, and whilst plenty of us expected him to win against Shailen and win on points, like you don't get an award for thinking of Josh Warrington and win on points, because he does go the distance in a lot of his fights, but he just broke Shailen's heart.
Yeah.
Shailen probably could have seen it out to the bell, but his heart was broken when the referee, he slowly broke his heart and did a number on him, and as you say, made him unavoidable and a mandatory contender for Lee Selby's IBF title.
And then Josh Warrington did one of my favourite things in the whole world. When a fighter becomes mandatory challenger, and then they look straight into the camera, or they sort of taunt the crowd and they say that they want the champion next. So he got up on the corner and he looked straight at the camera and he swears and he says that he wants Lee Selby next. And I remember Errol Spence doing that after he knocked out Leonard Bundu. He started making the gesture around his waist, like strap me up kind of thing, and he wanted to kill Brook. Love it when fighters do that.
And I know why you love it, Dev, because all them brilliant little cuts you do on the BoxNation Twitter, and so until May 19,
correct.
I think all we're going to see every time you go every hour on that BoxNation Twitter feed, you're going to see Josh Warrington running towards a neutral corner and looking into a camera. So if people get fed up with that, blame the man Sani here.
No, plenty of great stuff coming up on the BoxNation Twitter. Don't unfollow, don't block. If anything, turn notifications on. Yeah, because then you won't miss a tweet. Friday, 7 o'clock, he's back. It's free to air. Bunce's Boxing Hour. Steve, your favourite show in the whole world.
It is. Love it. Fantastic magazine show. This week's going to be as good as ever. And with this press conference plan between Josh Warrington and Lee Selby, I think we'll be hearing from both of them. And I think there's some more Martin Murray stuff coming up. Okay. Some quite revealing stuff about his past.
And Saturday at 2 a.m, as we mentioned, we have live boxing back on the Channel of Champions. It's Gilberto Ramirez against Habib Ahmed and Jerwin Ankayas against Israel Gonzalez. Two big world title fights will be live from 2 a.m. Subscribe at BoxNation.com. There is no minimum contract. Just subscribe for that fight if you want, but don't subscribe and then stay with us for all of the great fights. Well, Steve, another week, another terrific podcast. You brought us Deontay Wilder. You brought us Billy Joe Saunders. You brought us Frank Warren. Is there any point me even being here, Steve?
Absolutely. You drive the ship. You're the captain.
Give me something.
You run the show. You give me the running order. I just go out. I just get on the phone. I go to the press conference and say, "Speak." You do all the work that matters.
Beautiful words.
Put it together.
Beautiful words from Mr. Steve Lillis. Not Steve Willis, of course, the referee that we mentioned at the top of the show, who we need to link you guys up, because his face is your charm and banter. It could turn into a hell of a show. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the Deontay Wilder exclusive, if you enjoyed the rest of the show, leave us a review on iTunes. It will help with the visibility of the show. And remember to tweet us any comments at BoxNation TV, at Steve Lillis, and at Sani Dev. Keep up to date with all of the latest boxing news at BoxNation.com, and subscribe to BoxNation, the 24/7 boxing channel where boxing is life. Thanks for listening.